Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues. Good to be here. I missed you all on Friday. It is wonderful to be back, though. Thank you to Sam and the team, and of course, Shanna, for all the great work that they did on Friday. Missed you all. Grateful to be back here. We're live this morning, Monday, February the 10th, 2025. And I'm so grateful to be joined this first segment by my dear friend, a friend of our ministry, a champion for life and for the gospel. Dan Steiner of Preborn is with me this morning. You know, before I bring Dan on, folks, let me just remind you that the Financial Issues family has partnered with Preborn since, I believe, 2016. So we're running up on 10 years here of this partnership, and it has just been a blessing. The FISM family, you all, has saved thousands of babies due to the continuous support of Preborn, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. So this week, we want to spend some time highlighting Preborn. We want you to become a heartbeat hero. Of course, Valentine's Day is coming up at the end of this week. Your monthly gift to Preborn, or however you choose to give, it's a one-time gift. It provides immediate assistance to the many Preborn network clinics to empower women with the education and resources that they need to be able to choose life for their babies and also to trust in Christ as their Savior. So really amazing here. We got a goal, folks. The goal is $21,000 this week. That's the equivalent of 750 potentially life-saving scans. Again, that's $28 a scan. If that's all you can do, man, that is awesome. If you can do more, that's amazing as well. So consider going to preborn.com/FISM and making a donation today. But I've got Dan on with me. Dan, welcome back to the show, brother. It is an honor to have you on, and I appreciate the work you guys are all doing at Preborn.
Well, it's a joy to partner with the station, the leadership there, yourself, and Yvonne and the team, Michael, as well as the wonderful listeners that together we have provided answers for these girls that are in the middle of the valley of decision of their life. You know,
yeah.
We have a hard time connecting with this, Seth, because we're guys, but think about it for a second. You find out there's another human being inside of you.
Right.
You know, it's your baby.
A miracle.
And you're a mother, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Anna felt that she had control of her life. She's a college student working toward her degree, had a good job working in a hospital, wonderful boyfriend that was in the Navy. And then she found out she's pregnant, not planned. And so, you know, like, somebody's in control. She's considering all of her options. You know, what are the Florida? She's in Florida's abortion laws and adoption, what it means to parenting, and reflecting on her situation. She said, you know, all my options scared me, mainly because I didn't have control of anything that happened, including getting pregnant. But that's not true. She did make a choice there. But anyway, inside the fact, even though having an abortion scared me, she said, I felt like it was my best choice to get back control of my life. And that's often the case, often pushed by the mother of this pregnant girl or the boyfriend or husband, is that they think it's the easy way out, ignoring the reality of the wonderful gift that God's given them, which is their child, their baby inside of them, the miracle, as you just stated. Yeah. So, you know, she went online, and there she found one of our partner network clinics, one of Preborn's clinics. Although she was raised Catholic, she explained that she didn't agree with many of the church's rules, didn't attend services anymore. She came in, and we talked to her about her faith, shared the gospel with her. She agreed to pray, and she prayed to God about her situation. And with a renewed sense of hope, she consented to an ultrasound, which is what we really wanted her to do when she came in the first place.
Right.
You know, it's what we're sponsoring today. This is the deal, guys. This is like the best weapon for abortion. It's not politics. You know, you've heard all of these wonderful things that I'm so glad that Trump has done. You haven't heard anything on abortion yet. Hello? Hello? Yep. And, you know, my thought there is he needs to get on God's page on this. He's on God's page on so many other things, but God's not about prosperity. He's about life, and he's about the gospel.
That's right.
Although he did make a thing about a statement about faith-based initiative in the White House, which Preborn is deeply a part of that.
Awesome.
Representing
Very
the life
good.
issue. So pray for us on that, but I digress. Anyway, back to Anna. She's in the ultrasound room, sees her baby, boyfriend there with her, and she said, like yelling, oh my gosh, it has a heartbeat. I was like, that's the beach ball, right? We knew this. But anyway, that heartbeat, even more than the image of the baby, is what we're sponsoring with Heartbeat Heroes, because that is the deal. Blobbous tissue masses of cells, do not have heartbeats. Living human beings have heartbeats. And that is what changed her mind. She chose life for her baby. And then because of the wonderful listeners of Financial Issues, maternity clothes, doctor visits, and whatever she's going to need moving forward. This happened Friday,
Wow.
So, we're doing this a lot because people, it's like, maybe the government will give us money now, but they certainly haven't up to this point.
Yeah.
In fact, when Trump got elected, I was sitting on the plane with Tucker Carlson before Trump got elected, and I looked at Tucker and I said, so what happens if Biden gets elected? And he said, well, we both go to jail.
Basically.
I said, well, prison ministry. But anyway, because of what we've done last year, 131,000 women like Anna received a pregnancy test. 112,000 of them took an ultrasound. 76,000 girls, one-on-one, 45-minute gospel presentations. And so we're saving lives like crazy.
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing.
That's awesome, Dan. Man, you had mentioned earlier in that conversation how oftentimes these young girls feel the pressure from family members or boyfriends or fathers, mothers to abort their child. Sometimes even under the guise of thinking this is the most loving thing that you can do. You're saving yourself headache, all that stuff. Obviously, we believe the opposite. We believe the most loving thing they can do is save their baby. Why is saving preborn babies an act of profound love?
Well, first, it's selfless. You all are listening to the broadcast here today, and you don't have to do this. You don't have to give you $28 to underwrite an ultrasound, but we're laying up treasures in heaven. And, the Word of God is our guide, and all things says, rescue those that are being taken away to death in Psalms. Those that are staggering to the slaughter, hold them back. If we say we don't know it, does not He know it? Who will judge our souls? Does not He know it? Who sees our lives, and will He not render to us according to our deeds? And so if we hope to hear well done, we are the abortion generation. So if there's never been a time in any of human history where there's been any hidden persecuted people group extinguished at the rate of 800,000, nearly 1 million a week globally. This is a global problem.
Yeah.
And so, one of the most loving things we can do in fulfilling one of the great commandments is, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and second. Second is like that. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus himself said, and as much as you've done it to the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me in Matthew 25. And so actually we're ministering to the Lord when we're underwriting these ultrasounds, when we're helping these girls with diapers, cribs, and car seats, and everything they need for 2 years once they birth that baby. What you and I are doing here is an act of practical compassion. And it's a life-saving act. You can drill wells, and that's an awesome thing to do, and give people water, but they'll be thirsty again. This saves a life.
Yeah.
Right on the spot. And, so it's, I'm just so thankful for the thousands of Financial Issues listeners that have launched Preborn and sustained us over the years, allowing us to provide these ultrasounds and caring for these mothers.
Absolutely.
I got to say, I'm really thrilled to report that we've seen thousands already this year. We've seen over 6,000 women tested with pregnancy tests in our clinics, and 5,000 of them were pregnant of the 6,000, and 3,500 of the pregnant 5,000 were wanting an abortion. So we're reaching the right population. Online, we're a tech organization, and we gave them an ultrasound, and of that 3,500, 2,900 chose life. So awesome. Far this year.
What a success rate. Oh man, Dan, that is just amazing. We're praising God with you for that, man. And thank you so much for the work that you guys are doing, brother. Real quickly here, because we're coming up on the end of this segment, how can the Financial Issues listeners, obviously we can give and support, especially this week, but how can we pray for you guys as you continue leading this fight? Yeah, appreciate those prayers. First, go to preborn.com, find out more information there. You can give preborn.com/FISM to give.
You can also call 855-601-BABY, 855-601-BABY. Tell them that you heard it on Financial Issues Stewardship Ministries, one of the most pro-life ministries, the most pro-life broadcast ministry in America today, launched by Densley and Seth and others are carrying it through. So pray for Preborn that we would have favor. Give us favor in our hiring. We need team members. Give us favor in our marketing for these women. Give us favor with more donors. Give us favor with the new Trump administration and with this new faith-based office. Most of all, favor in protection from the enemy. He hates what we do at Financial Issues and Preborn together. He's constantly attacking us in horrible, clear ways.
Absolutely.
That, he's wasting his time on because God's force would be against us, right?
Dan, we will certainly pray for those things, brother. Thank you so much, brother, for the work that you're doing. It's an honor to join you and stand side by side. Folks, preborn.com/FISM. Coming up next, we got Shanna and Jason. You don't want to miss it. More Financial Issues coming right after this. We'll be back.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay, or to go, to remain the same, or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common, the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
In a time when children are facing unprecedented challenges, the gospel stands as the greatest source of hope. At Crossroads Kids Club, we have the incredible opportunity to bring the message of Jesus into public schools nationwide. Join us in sharing the life-changing hope of the gospel with the next generation. The need is urgent, but God's love is powerful. Together, we can offer Christ's love to children who are longing for it. To join us, visit reachourschools.com. That's reachourschools.com.
Hi, this is Sheena Burt, the host of Financial Issues. The Financial Issues family is so blessed to have saved tens of thousands of babies, all thanks to the generous support of you, our listeners and viewers. For $140, you can sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Please go to preborn.org, that's preborn.org, or financialissues.org and click on the Preborn logo. Save a baby, save a life.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shanna are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. I'm your host, Shanna Burt. Thanks for sticking with us over that break, and I sure do hope that you will consider giving what you can to help Preborn in their Heartbeat campaign. Our stewardship verse today comes from Luke 16:10. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. Well, this verse sums up the parable of the dishonest manager found in Luke 16:10. The manager found out that he was going to lose his job of collecting debts from people and started cutting deals with them to ingratiate himself so that he would be shown favor to when he lost his position of power. Now, he was commended for prioritizing mercy and placing his relationships with people above his job, but he was still called dishonest for his tactics. The tactics of this dishonest manager remind me of what we are learning every day about what DOGE is uncovering and what U.S. aid has been funding and the fraud, waste, and abuse that is going on every day in our federal government. Well, I've got my friend and colleague Jason MacDowell back today to talk to us, to talk with me on this topic. So, Jason, welcome back. You've been doing some digging, and you want to bring us up to speed on what you know about the efficiencies of the Department of Government Efficiency Team.
That's right. There's a lot going on, and it's happening every day. So we'll just kind of take a step back and kind of shed some light on, can they actually do this cutting? Will it be legal? What are their blockades? What are the problems that we see? Is this actually happening? If anyone's actually looking at Twitter or X or any of the other social media accounts, you see a lot's happening every day, tons of numbers and tons of things. So I want to break that down. We'll start with the actual team itself. We got some more information. We talked in the past about a legal team. So I was hoping there'd be other members, a part of the DOGE team that will help this and get around. So that's been kind of revealed. So right now, everyone, a lot of the media, generally speaking, are talking about 6 young engineers between 19 and 24. I mean, these are computer engineers. They're very efficient. And Joe Rogan, I think, called them wizards. And I thought it was really funny. But anyways, they were tasked with modernizing the federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. That's kind of the quote that came out of, I think, maybe Elon or some other member was talking about what they're going to actually do. So these are actual team members that Trump has ordered to be in every administrative branch agency. So that's going to be a team lead, a lawyer, an HR person for all the personnel, because we're talking about personnel and building efficiency cutting, and then an engineer also. So I don't know if there's only 6 engineers. We hear about the 6, but there could be other engineers as well, but they're all tasked for each of the administrative branches to handle each one appropriately and in a legal way. So 2 of those are through government federal agencies. So 3-letter agencies. We hear a lot of that here in this segment. The Office of Personnel Management, and then General Services Administration. I mentioned that on a past DOGE thing as what they're most likely going to use, but they're using that. And so it's working out pretty well. The OPM serves as a chief HR agency for the federal government. And then the GSA provides workplaces, construction, managing and preserving government buildings by leasing and managing commercial real estate. So essentially it's the buildings. We got the people, federal government 3-letter agency, and then the buildings that are part of the government as well. So we'll break that down a little bit more there. So these engineers are going to be looking through those 2 federal agencies to see where the appropriation of money was, but also these buildings to see if they can just make it efficient, cut down on the empty buildings or the half-empty buildings that way.
Yeah, so returning to work is a good first step, and seeing who actually shows up is going to be interesting too. You know, I've heard estimates that the great stewards in our federal government have been wasting somewhere around $1 billion a day just on waste, abuse, and fraud. Our last fiscal budget, if you really want to even call it a budget, it's a sorry attempt at a budget. At the end of the day, I guess it's just really what came in versus what went out. No really intention there about how to balance a budget, but it came in very, very much in the red to the tune of about $2 trillion. You know, to just pump the brakes on the car that's headed off the fiscal cliff, we have to get Congress to kick its spending addiction, and we have to cut some costs. So what's on the chopping block so far?
Yeah, Musk mentioned $2 trillion as an optimistic number, but reality is let's set some expectations for $1 trillion by their bookend date of like 2026 or July of 2026, I think is what the goal date was. So they're giving themselves, a certain amount of time. What kicked off was the first 80 hours, $420 million were canceled in government contracts. So the cutting is going to be in these terminated contracts, terminated leases, termination of paying rent on empty buildings to the private sector. It's just kind of a large swatch of just a lot of cutting wherever they can legally. So that's the big point, is that they have the right to do so. And that's going to come out here. One of the interesting parts was there was $1 million saved for terminating a contract for Gender X Initiative Market, and removed references to gender ideology from public-facing applications. So essentially, Social Security Administration, there was a screenshot I saw that there was $1 million spent just to have this on claiming Social Security. And so I'm like, okay.
So you can mark your gender as X.
I guess, or on other public-facing things that the government has. But that was the screenshot I saw with my eyes, and I thought it was absurd.
Yes.
So there's another part to Congress pushing back. We've heard some Congress saying that it should go through Congress about cutting back these things and get approval. Well, DOGE found today that, actually, during this week, they've the Congress has provided $516 billion in appropriations this fiscal year to programs that had expired. And this is coming out of the Congressional Budget Office's July report. So that's already showing that Congress is misappropriating too, so they don't have authority. And the worst part is half of these expiring contracts actually ended 10 years ago, with the oldest one expiring in 1980. So basically, Congress has continued to allow payments out of the Treasury, for whatever authority, however that works, to just constantly be going out the door to these old terminated contracts that aren't doing anything. So the question now is, who's getting that? These programs don't exist anymore.
Because I've heard, I heard Ro Khanna, the Congressman Ro Khanna, on a CNBC interview, and he was really upset about all of this, and he was just saying, he was reminding us all that Congress controls the purse strings, and what Elon and his team shouldn't be able to just cut things out. They should have to come to Congress and show them what they're finding. Well, if it's your job to control the purse strings, you better know where the money's going. And so what I hear you saying is that, the money that's been approved to go out by these agencies really is past its expiration date and really shouldn't even be happening anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's the spending that is no longer allowed. Not that Trump is overstepping his bounds by letting Elon cut some of these things.
Absolutely. And another area is DEI. So we're hearing a lot about that, but why is DEI working as far as cutting? Well, what the federal government had was in the OPM. So the thing that DOGE has access to now and is looking at is there's a Chief Diversity Officers Executive Council, or a CDOEC, which was just made up of either one person or several, I'm not quite sure, that was there to be a national strategy for DEI across the federal government and to position the federal government as a model for DEIA or DEI. So essentially, this is where they looked at the label and the funding. So if the label was there in these federal agencies, funding was going there for those appropriated titles or those particular buildings or hiring staff. You had to slap the label on it. So that's what essentially this is what's going on with DOGE is they go, okay, this is efficient. Now we find everything with the label, we can find misappropriated funds. So through January 29th of 25, 85 DEI related contracts totaling roughly $1 billion have been terminated within about 26 departments. And this goes from the Department of Education, which is pretty obvious, all the way over to a crazy one, NOAA or NOAA, which is the weather. Which I find is funny, for these contracts. So it's throughout the entire government, they slapped this label on, and the engineers were like, oh, well, that's an easy cut, and we can do that. So,
even the Fed talks about DEI.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And then, of course, we have the big one, USAID. There was about a total of $40 billion of taxpayer dollars funded in foreign aid. So that's specifically out to foreign. But a bigger one that came out was Politico LLC. And I'm using the LLC in there is that you can go on usaspending.gov and look up Politico LLC and see all of the appropriated money that was given to them. Under the total, what I saw was about $34 million, but the big thing that was being talked about was $8 million through like a couple subscribers. So what I'm seeing in the working research I'm doing on my end is that they were using multiple ways to sort of cover appropriated money to these places for an agenda, plain and simple. And that can be found on the government's, you find anything in .gov. It's all tracked and it's there. It's just that people know where to look for it. Half of this stuff I didn't even know existed. So this is where you're seeing these disaster codes that are non-emergency related get assigned a code for these grants and contracts and this appropriation of money to go to these media companies. Right now it's just Politico, but Trump was screaming about, did the New York Times get this? Did these other places get it? So DOGE is going to continue to look, but this is real-time information that we're still waiting on. I'm like, better go look and see how we can prove this. So that's one of the big ones, and anybody can look at follow DOGE on the social media, and they keep blasting everything they're finding with sources. So that really helps.
Yeah. President Donald Trump has nominated Frank Bisagno, I can't even say his last name, the CEO of financial technology company, Fiserv, to serve as the commissioner of Social Security. You know, I looked up his name, I listened to it said so many times, and I practiced it, and I still couldn't get it right. So sorry about that. But he's going to be serving as the commissioner of the Social Security Administration. His background is primarily in the private sector. He's had leadership roles at J.P. Morgan and Citigroup. But it's funny that the biggest criticism of him coming into this position is that he lacks prior government experience. I think that's probably his best qualification.
I agree.
You know, so I saw him speak on a CNBC interview, and he said that, you know, he was confirming that he would uphold Trump's objective for no cuts to Social Security benefits. And that really his job would be a technology job to make the Social Security Administration more efficient. You know, within his 12 years of leading a financial payments company, I think he has significant experience in what he said is he builds AI systems to find waste, fraud, and abuse for a living. So he says he's definitely going to work with DOGE, and he'll increase the company's margins. I hear the music. That means we got to take a break. Jason, you want to stick around with us for the next segment? Maybe we can finish up some of our thoughts here.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, hang around. We'll be back with more financial issues after this.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
One of the emphases of preborn has been ultrasound in two ways. An ultrasound machine if a pregnancy clinic doesn't have one, and then an ultrasound session, which we underwrite hundreds of thousands of those. We've seen over and over again the dramatic results that when a woman encounters her baby for the first time and hears that heartbeat, she realizes the magnitude of what's happening here, that there is somebody else, that's her baby. So this is why preborn pushes out ultrasound as much as we possibly can. Preborn has seen over 200,000 babies saved, over 59,000 people come to Christ, populating earth and eternity, life for this life and life forever. Save the baby's life, but save the mother's life so that she can lead that baby to Christ. If we're bringing people into this world and the mother doesn't receive Christ and the child is born and the child lives its life and doesn't receive Christ, this is not a good end. And so we have to have the gospel as part and parcel and really the heartbeat of what preborn is.
What separates Crossroads Kids Club from other ministries to reach school-age children? What sets you guys apart?
First of all is our connection with local churches. We mobilize, equip, train, support local church partners. We're right inside the schools. There's a number of ministries that try to serve public school children outside of the school, but we're able to be right there on the campus. Another key thing is just our values. Our highest value is actually relationships. And so we're not a ministry that's driven by a lot of fancy technology or flashy stuff, but rather getting adults who love Jesus and who love kids to sit on the floor with a group of kids, to listen to them, to love them. So I would say the relational emphasis and the simplicity of the model is actually something that makes Crossroads special as well.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurschools.com.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Thanks for hanging with us. Jason and I were talking before the break about some of the things that the DOGE team is uncovering, their tactics, some of the things that are up on the chopping block that can potentially be cut out. And we got to the point, we're talking a little bit about Social Security and Trump's nominee for Social Security Administration Commissioner. And he's a CEO, or he has been for the last 12 years, the CEO of a company called Fiserv, which is an electronics payment company. And, you know, I saw an interview that he was saying that, you know, for the past 12 years, or longer, really, he focuses on building AI systems to find waste, fraud, and abuse. And that excites me so much that he's going to be put in charge of the Social Security Administration, pending his confirmation, I guess. He says that he will definitely work with the DOGE team. And, you know, at the head of Fiserv, he's increased his company's margins from 4% to 16% on revenue growth, on a much bigger number. And he's increased the margins of his company from 29 to 39% by increasing efficiency in the way that the company works. So I'm not one bit concerned that he has no government experience. You know, that's the biggest criticism from some of the people in Washington, that the people that are coming in from the private market, they don't have any idea how the government works. Well, thank God, because the government obviously doesn't need to be working the way that it has been working. So, Jason, thanks for sticking with us here. What are some of the, you know, speaking of Social Security and some of the other agencies, what's some of your feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with everybody. I know they're looking into the IRS. There was one report that I read. I want to be able to make sure I can prove the stuff that comes from the right place, but that the IRS was using AI to help look into people's bank accounts. I mean, we know there's fraud and corruption everywhere, but as it comes out, it's obvious, but also, you know, disheartening. I'm hoping with the Social Security Medicare that DOGE actually gets in and finds some transparency, and then they got an actual person with experience that can make that more efficient, you know, for payments, right? Processing. Maybe the VA gets better claims. Maybe people actually do get claims and get approved for things, you know, with these government agencies. I would like to see the VA as well. DOGE to kind of go into everything. You even got congressmen like Rand Paul wanting DOGE and pointing DOGE as a attack dog to break open other things that in the Senate. That can you look at this? Can you open it up? Now that we have a efficient and legal team, efficient process to it, that I'm hoping to see all of it. Same goes with the tax bill. Looks like they can't be too corrupt with it. They're going to know that it's going to get analyzed by DOGE and opened up, and then we, the public, will hear about it. So that's on that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, are we going to see cuts?
Well, I hope so. With the cutting, the big question is this, and I want all the listeners to know that even though there's cutting going on, that's great. We're going to be looking out at where are they going to spend it now? Are they going to spend it? Because you're not saving if you're just appropriating it somewhere else, even though everyone gets excited that you cut the corruption. Is the continued spending going to happen? Can we actually pull back on the debt? Can we actually address the debt? So that's the big question that we want to look at.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And I listened to Elon Musk talk last week, I guess, and he was talking about the activities of the DOGE team and the things like that and the things that they want to cut out. But you're right. If they just redirect that money to spend it on something else, it's not savings and it's not a cut. And Elon knows that. I heard him say over and over what I've been pounding the table on for the last 3 years is that inflation has been caused by excess government spending. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. So if the government, is taking money from us through taxes, the government's also penalizing us through inflation by spending money. So at the end of the day, if these things don't get cut, then we don't have any chance of surviving long term as a country. You know, we've got to get our budget balanced, our house in order, and then we can start. We'll be well on our way to making America great again. So, Jason, thanks so much for joining us today. You always have such great input. All right, Sam, what do we have? Let's get to some of these questions that we need to get answered that have come in from the website.
Yes, we got a great question today from Cheryl. She says, hello, Shanna. I have a question. I've had my IRA for many years with Merrill Lynch. I like my financial advisor for my investor account. However, she does not control how the account managers invest my IRA funds. For the past decade, they've gotten more and more woke, putting money in funds I would not invest in. She told me that I could go to a self-directed IRA account and control my own investments, but I simply would not know what to invest in. Can you help? She also says, P.S. I saw your show on TV yesterday and I found it very interesting.
Well, great, Cheryl. We're so glad that you found us. We hope that you keep listening, because when you do, you'll find out that our ministry offers a do-it-yourself program for investing for individual investors. So when you become a partner with our ministry for just $132 a year, you get instructional videos, you get asset allocation models, and you get a buy list from us, giving you ideas of companies that you can invest in that screen clean, that aren't using shareholder dollars to fund an ungodly agenda. So, it's not uncommon to see this happen. Financial planning and asset management or portfolio management are really two different things. And most financial advisors, like I'm hearing you say in your case, are much better at the financial planning part of their job, and they really kind of outsource the asset management part of it by using either mutual funds or ETFs, or, maybe big companies like Merrill Lynch have their own, SMAs or different things like that. So they don't actually make the decisions on where the money is deployed and invested. So that is much different. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe you can continue to work with your financial advisor on things like planning, and then take the asset management part of it, take control of the asset management part of it by becoming a partner with us.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's move on to Danny now. He says, hi, Shanna. I'm currently a little confused on how we should be allocating our fixed income since moving the preferreds into that category, and now that rates on CDs have fallen to a level that may warrant moving out of the ladders we established. I had a one-year ladder, some now maturing. Can you clarify how we should be allocating, especially with the adjustments to the models coming up? I'm in the 65 to retirement model.
Yeah, so back, I guess a year and a half ago, we suggested doing a 2-year CD ladder where you do a 6-month, a 1-year, 18-month, and a 2-year, because the rates on all of those maturities were well over 5%. Money market was even over 5% at that point in time. Since then, we've seen CD rates come down. We're starting to see the yield curve normalize a little bit. So I don't suggest getting out of the CDs that you're in, but as they start to come due, we're seeing CD rates much lower, and we're having to look for a different place to deploy that. So the asset allocation models are currently being tweaked, under review right now. We're coming up with some recommendations for how to redeploy that money that's coming due with CDs. For now, though, my suggestion would be FI3. It does have a yield of over 5% right now, and I think it's going to be a good place now. More than likely, as interest rates go down, and maybe they're going to kind of stall out where they are based on the latest jobs numbers and inflation numbers, we may not see any more Fed rate cuts until second half or last half of the second part of the year. So FI3, I think, would be a good place to go as those CDs are starting to come due.
Very good. We'll try to squeeze in Austin here with just a couple minutes left. He says, Shanna, I seem to remember in the recent past that CD86, which was recently added to the buy list, was being watched for LGBTQ and other non-BRI concerns. The ticker now screened it clean with a 0% violation rating, which is great, but it sounds too good to be true. Can you please refresh us on what they were doing back then and what was of concern, any evidence that these actions were tied to state or federal funding?
So the thing that they were doing that was keeping them off of our list was that they had a policy for their employees, an employee benefit where they would pay for travel to get health care. So under one of the screeners that we use, it was screening dirty because of that policy saying that they pay for abortion travel. But we've been watching it for a while. The reference was to a policy that they started in 2021 prior to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So it's our stand that the intention of the company was not to pay for abortion travel. It was a policy that they already had in place prior to any of these things happening, and there's been no further developments there. So it is clean on the primary screener that we use, and it's a company that and been very interested in for a while, and we are now feeling comfortable moving forward on that.
Right, very good. I think that's all we have time for today, Shanna, but it's always great hearing from the partners and seeing what their questions are.
Yep. Folks, if you have questions, you can go to our website, financialissues.org, and submit your own question. Or, on the days that we are here live, you can actually call in and ask us questions. If you're listening, though, when the show's not live, you'll have to find it when it is live, which is between 8 and 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. All right, folks. We've got to take a break, but stick around. Sam and Seth are going to be back to take you home for the rest of the day.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
This Valentine's season, we invite you to join Financial Issues and Preborn in a mission to save babies and transform lives. Your donation of $120 can make an extraordinary difference. This amount represents the average number of times an unborn baby's heart beats in a single minute. To donate, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby, or go to financialissues.org and click on the Preborn banner.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, folks. Good to be here with you all today. So, of course, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles on winning yesterday's big game. I don't know if we're allowed to say what it's actually called, Sam, but we'll just leave it at that. I had to, many of you in the chat had suggested, Dan used to wear his Eagles shirt after they had won the last time, and so I couldn't say no to that. So pretty fun. This is actually Reggie White, who was a famous believer as well. Both men, of course, our founder and him as well in glory today. So pretty cool. But good to be here with you all this morning. I'm grateful for you all, and I hope you enjoyed those segments there with Shanna as well as Jason. Of course, if you missed the interview with Dan Steiner, make sure to go back and listen to that if you have time to do that today. But right now, we do have the Ag Report, so we'll get to that right now. Craig Halgard always giving us great information for our farmers and ranchers. So here's Craig Halgard with today's Ag Report, and then we'll be back to talk about the markets and some other things that are going on this week. Here he is.
This is Craig Halgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for February 10th. 10th. Well, on Friday, corn opened and traded higher in the first few hours of overnight trade before eventually heading lower to end the week. Favorable forecast for rain in Argentina and southern Brazil, angst over deal or no deal with China, chatter from the Trump administration on additional tariffs to other countries potentially coming this week all contributed to a softer market. March corn ended the day 7 3/4 cents lower at 487.5. Argentina's Rosaria Grain Exchange declared on Friday that rainfall has saved much of the soybean crop from the, quote, inferno in the last week, with more rains on the way. In Brazil, analysts are expanding their ideas of Brazilian production, and that all contributed to a lower market. March beans were 11 cents lower at 10.49.5. Wheat traders were focused on Statistics Canada's quarterly grain stocks report, which showed that all wheat stocks as of December 31st were 24.5 million metric tons in that nation. That was 1.5 million more than the trade estimate. As a result, we saw some pressure on wheat prices. Minneapolis March wheat was 0.75 cents lower at 6.27 3/4. Kansas City declined by 3 1/4 cents, closing at $6.04 1/4 per bushel. And Chicago was a nickel lower at 5.82 3/4. Cotton futures were pressured by weak export sales and a stronger dollar. At the closing bell, March futures were 40 points lower, ending the day at 65.63. Livestock futures were mixed. April live cattle were unchanged at $196.77.5 per hundredweight. March feeder cattle were 40 cents lower, settling at $264.90 per hundred. And April lean hog futures rose by 40 cents, closing the day at $92.15 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures collapsed on Friday. At the closing bell, March futures were down 62 points at 19.44. This has been Craig Haugard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
There he is, folks. Craig Haugard with our Ag Report today, as always, giving us some great information. Let's get to the chat here for just a moment. Sam, I'm actually going to read this one because it's about you, and I want to say thank you so much.
Is that
to
good
Sam
or bad?
Oh, it's good. It's fantastic. Love it. This is Peter and Josie from Arkansas saying, Sam, it's great to hear your input with Seth. I don't get to hear a lot of this news, and Sammy is my catch-up person. Sam, it reminds me when Dan used to call you Sammy. Sammy Case.
You know, it was really confusing sometimes because we had another Sammy. We had Sammy Nazario.
That's right.
Typically, I would go by Sam and he's Sammy, and Dan would just call us both Sammy, so you never knew who he was actually talking to. But that's a good flashback. I love it.
That's good stuff. Thank you so much, P&J. Yeah, Sam is a gift to me and to our ministry, and so great to have him get to do this every day.
I really appreciate that. That's great.
For sure. A lot of fun stuff here. So, all right, folks, let's take a quick look at the markets. So, yesterday, the markets ended the week down. Inflation and tariff talks seem to be making investors nervous. At least they were last week. We'll see how it looks this week. By Friday's closing bell, the Dow Jones was down right around a full percentage point. Same with the S&P 500. The NASDAQ was down about 1 1/3, a little more than that actually, 1 1/3 percentage points. For the week ending February 7th last week, all the major indices negative territory. The S&P 500 was down 1/5%. The Dow Jones was down about 0.5%. Same with the NASDAQ. The Russell 2000 down around 0.3% to end the week. For the year, though, the market's still doing pretty well. So the S&P 500 is up around 2.5% for the year 2025. The Dow Jones is the leader, up over 4%. The NASDAQ is up just over 1%. And then the Russell 2000 is up right around 2.2%. The NASDAQ is the one that's fallen behind with that, of course, probably because of what's been happening with DeepSeek and, some other things happening too. Obviously, the tariffs are going to have an impact on all this stuff. But still a good start to the year for the markets, despite a rather rough week and a rough day last week. The pre-markets this morning seem pretty confident. And so as they have opened right now, about 20 minutes ago, that's where they're sitting right now. The Dow Jones is up 1/4. The S&P 500 is up about 0.2%, and the NASDAQ composite is up 0.75 percentage point this morning. Oil is right around $72 a barrel, and meanwhile, the U.S. 10-year Treasury yields hanging right around 4.47%, a little bit down from where they were previously. This week, folks, what to expect in the economy. There's a couple things that are happening this week that it would be good for you to keep an eye on that could have an impact on the markets. There's not a whole lot today, with the exception of earnings reports, which we'll get to in just a moment. But then tomorrow, we get the NFIB Optimism Index for January. But then the big story, obviously, is going to be at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is going to testify to Congress. This will be his first congressional appearance since President Trump's inauguration. The questions likely will cover the new administration's tariff policies. That's the big one. And then the outlook for interest rates, inflation, kind of the usual stuff. I can imagine Powell probably won't shed too much light on it just based on his past performance, but we'll see. That's going to happen at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So you can imagine that the markets might be impacted one way or the other on Tuesday's trading day. And of course, we'll talk all about it on Wednesday's live show because that will happen after the show ends on Tuesday. Speaking of Wednesday, we'll also get Consumer Price Index and the continuation of the Fed Chair testimony to Congress. Thursday, we get jobless claims. We get the PPI as well for January. And then Friday, we'll get U.S. retail sales as well. That's for the month of January. I mentioned earnings season. Speaking of earnings season, it is rolling on continually. We did get some earnings out this morning. So McDonald's broke this morning. That was the big one. Bit of a disappointment, I think. The earnings per share was 2.83 adjusted, hit expectations. The revenue is really where I think investors are disappointed. It fell short. Revenue came in right at $6.39 billion. It was under the $6.44 billion expected. Now, my personal thought, and Sam, you can feel free to chime in on this too. I just wonder if the introduction of Robert Kennedy Jr. Into Trump's team, I'm wondering if maybe some people are starting to just not be so sure about McDonald's.
That's a possibility, but you got to remember they also had that big E. coli outbreak, and that made sales plummet for a good month or so.
Absolutely.
So I imagine quite a bit of that is also baked into those numbers.
For sure. Yeah. So I think those things are all happening there for sure. We also got on semiconductors, not a whole lot this morning though. Tomorrow we get Coca-Cola. That's going to be the big one I think that people are looking out for. We'll get DoorDash and some others. Wednesday, not a lot. We get Cisco, CVS, and others. It's kind of a down week for earnings, I think. Thursday we get Sony. We'll also get John Deere as well, which I know we'll be keeping an eye out for sure, and some others also. And then Friday, nothing much of note. So I really think the big earnings report came out this morning, and we'll keep an eye on some of those other ones as well. All right, Sam, so the big news, I think, this week, other than Powell tomorrow, is going to be what's happening with these tariffs. Can you give us an update on kind of what's been going on here, Sam? Obviously, Friday, we were seeing the potential of reciprocal tariffs and more tariffs on different things. What have we got?
Tariffs, and more tariffs, right, Seth?
That's right.
I'm actually surprised to learn that the market's opening in relative positive territory based on some of this news. So
for sure.
I'm getting this from CNBC right now. So according to them, U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday said he'll introduce a new 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the U.S. That's on top of existing metals duties in another major escalation of his trade policy overhaul. By the way, he also plans to introduce reciprocal tariffs on Tuesday or Wednesday. We're not sure when, but basically what that one means is if you have a tariff on the U.S., we're going to place a tariff equal to that tariff on you. As far as the aluminum and the steel tariffs, that's just going to be 25% across the board. It doesn't matter what country that's coming from, you're still going to get slapped with that number.
Yeah. So that's interesting stuff, Sam, because right now, I mean, say China's angry about it, they put more tariffs on us. If other countries are like, oh, we're just going to jump on the bandwagon too. Now, I assume what happens is then we will put tariffs on whoever puts tariffs on us, pretty much.
Yeah, and this is where you do get into the danger of a trade war territory, but
for sure,
Trump's a smart cookie when it comes to these things, and he typically has a goal in mind with them. He's not doing it just for the sake of it, so they tend to be more controlled than you think. Interesting enough about the aluminum and the steel tariffs, the biggest importers of that are going to be Mexico and Canada. I forget which one imports which. I think Canada might be steel and Mexico is aluminum. So this could be a continuation of what we were seeing against Canada and Mexico before. So it could be Trump trying to kind of sweeten the deal with them while those negotiations are still continuing for the next month or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. There are several plates in the air, as it were, there. You've got those negotiations. Now you got this as well with the aluminum and steel. Boy, it's going to be interesting, folks, to see for sure. But so far, as Sam had just mentioned, the market's feeling pretty good about it. So we'll see if that that continues. I just can't help but think, it seems like no matter what Powell says, the markets are skittish about it. It's just like they're just not.
And
sure.
I think you're right. He's going to play pretty coy during these testimonies. I don't think he wants to get in any trouble with either the Republicans or the Democrats. So he's probably going to play a little bit of a politician during this. So I doubt he's going to say anything that rocks the boat too much.
Absolutely. Well, folks, it was a good one. Boy, it went by quickly. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you one more time to consider joining us for our Heartbeat campaign with Preborn. We're so excited to partner with them. Again, go back and listen to that interview I did with Dan in the first part of the show today. Make sure to visit preborn.com/FISM. Help us hit that $21,000 goal this week. Preborn.com/FISM. Great to be here with you all this morning. Remember, it's all His. Let's be found good and faithful stewards with the money God has given to us. God bless you all, and Lord willing, we'll catch you tomorrow for more financial issues.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.